Well, welcome everyone. Um, my name is Justin Wilson. I serve as the manager for engagement and resources for the ELCA Youth Gathering, and excited to be alongside Beth Hartfield, who does administration and logistics for the gathering. And so we are excited to talk about why the gathering. We'll look at our mission, vision, values, how the gathering and our pre-events, MYLE on the table, and the young adult gathering shape faith, belonging, and leadership. And so before we get started, I wanted to give a little overview. But before that, I'll also just add that at the bottom of your screen, there should be a Q&A feature. If you click on one of those or click on the Q&A, you can ask a question and it'll come to us. And we'll spend some time at the end of our webinar tonight doing Q&A. So Beth is going to share her screen. Hopefully. Yes, there it is. And so here we go. So like I said, we're just gonna do a quick little overview of what we're gonna talk about tonight, and then we'll dive right in. So we'll start with the why, and then explore why 2027 matters. We'll highlight our pre-events, share what's new this cycle, and then we'll close with some clear next steps in Q&A. And yeah, pretty simple. Before we fully dive in, we do have a little video from Deacon Jess Lyles, who serves as the director of the ELCA Youth Gathering. And so we'll play that here, and then we'll kick things off.
Hi everyone, I'm sorry I can't be with you all tonight for our first webinar, but I wanted to jump on and share a few things before passing it back to Beth and Justin. Let's take a moment to ground us in a place that has been on our hearts for a long time, Minneapolis. This is a city that keeps showing up, a community that continues to rise, to heal, and to lead, even when the world shifts beneath them. Our teams have been in relationship with this city since 2016, preparing for a moment when we could finally gather. But along the way, the city has carried more than its share of pain and pressure. The murder of George Floyd pushed the world and our church into long overdue conversations about race, power, and justice. The pandemic shut down not only our gathering plans, but our entire way of being community. And more recently, Minneapolis and the state of Minnesota has experienced an increase in federal presence, moving through neighborhoods, creating fear and uncertainty for many of our neighbors. This is the Minneapolis we are preparing to enter in 2027, not defined by crisis, but shaped by resilience. A city that keeps showing up, keeps organizing, and keeps loving their neighbor. It is into this reality that God is calling us to show up, with humility and with courage and with a willingness to listen to the people who call Minnesota home. And that's what brings us to why the gathering matters. Because when we bring thousands of young people together, something powerful happens. The gathering becomes a place where faith is not just taught, but lived. Where young people discover they are part of something bigger than themselves. A moment, a movement of hope, of courage, of compassion. In a world that feels fractured, they get to experience what it means to come together as a body of Christ, to imagine more. For many young people, the gathering becomes a turning point, a place where they hear words of grace, love, and curiosity, where they realize their voice matters right now, where they see a community that looks like the kingdom of God, diverse, joyful, honest, and determined to love in the face of fear. And when that happens, when young people show up in a city with open hearts, ready to pray, worship, and serve together, that's when faith becomes real. That's when they begin to imagine what God might be calling them to. That's when a moment becomes a movement. So, as we kick off this webinar, I want us to invite us to hold Minnesota, Minneapolis, with tenderness and also with anticipation, because this city, this state, knows something about resilience, about rising, about power of showing up. Our young people, they are ready to step into that story, ready to be shaped by it, ready to join this movement of faith that we call the gathering.
Awesome. We'll get started, and we're gonna first talk about our mission, vision, values. So after the 2024 gathering, our team of three sat with over 300 pages of evaluations, and we really worked to see what this ministry is called to do. I pulled it off of my bookshelf. There's literally 300 pages. It was very fun to read through it. And while we were going through that, it was clear to us that we needed to redefine our mission, vision, and values for life today. We got so used to pre-pandemic doing the same old, but we knew we needed to adapt and keep changing to meet the needs of our young people today. So our mission grounds everything we do. The ELC Youth Gathering exists to accompany people, specifically young people, not as experts who have all the answers, but as partners walking alongside them in faith. The gathering is intentionally structured around experiential learning, which will look a little different this cycle, which we'll explain a little bit further into the evening, through worship and through community. These are all spaces where young people are both affirmed in who they are and challenged to grow into who God is calling them to be. So that's a little bit about our mission. And then our vision is much shorter. It's inspire a movement of young people to boldly live out their faith. And uh, we really wanted to make sure that it was not just during this one mountaintop week every 3 years, but it carried on beyond that into their daily lives at home, at school, if they're working, at work, sports, and at church. When we talk about a movement, we're talking about energy and courage and the collective transformation. So this is our vision that has been guiding us, leading into the 2027 gathering and making some exciting changes. And we'll continue to hold this close as we get to Minneapolis next summer. And then our values. We have a lot, and trust me, this is a much shorter list than what it was. Our team went through a ton of we listed all of these values that we thought would be really important to hold as the ministry of the gathering, and we narrowed it down to 6. So we think that even though 6 is a lot, it's very, it was a good progress from where we were. So faith is the first one. We root everything in God's grace. We create space for growth, for hard questions, and for transformation. Belonging, every young person, every story, identity, question, complexity is celebrated as a whole person. The gathering is a place where all are seen and embraced. Our next one is connection. The gathering reminds youth that they are part of something bigger than themselves, bigger than their zip code, their school, or even their congregation. They'll interact with different ministries from across the ELCA churchwide expression, such as World Hunger and Lutheran Disaster Response, and see the work of this church in all of the different spaces. The next one is curiosity. We don't fear questions at the gathering. We encourage them. We want our young people to explore, to wonder, to stretch their faith. Inclusion, our commitment to accessibility, equity, and justice is not optional, it's theological. God's love is abundant and expansive without limits. And then our last value is leadership. So, young people aren't the church of tomorrow, they're the leaders today. And we truly believe that. The gathering helps our young people identify gifts, build confidence, and step into courageous leadership in a variety of different ways. So, that is kind of who we are and what the gathering aspires to be. And I will pass it on to Beth to kind of talk about why it's important right now.
All right. Thank you. Justin, I'm having problems getting my picture to come back up. Um, and so I'm gonna let you work with that on your side, Justin, while I keep going.
Will do.
Um, so why does the gathering matter now, right? That's kind of a question that we want to share. But gathering thousands of young people together matters because it gives them something that we as adults can't offer them. The experience of belonging to a much larger story when they come together at the gathering. Faith becomes real to them in a new way, and they see they're part of a hopeful, courageous movement of God, and they realize they're not alone in their questions or their hopes for the world. And so being surrounded by their peers empowers them to see themselves as movement makers, young leaders whose voices matter right now and whose actions shape the church and the world. And in that shared space of curiosity and worship, many begin to imagine what God might be calling them to next. And so, um, we hear all the time that youth return with from the gathering with deeper faith, stronger ties to their congregation, and a clearer sense of purpose. In back in 2020, Dr. Jacob Sorensen and the team at Sacred Playgrounds set out to explore what the summer camp staff experience is really all about. They interviewed former camp staff who were still active in Lutheran congregations and focused on one big question: how did working on camp staff shape their faith and their sense of call to ministry? Well, what they discovered became known as the Big Four ministries, the ministries that consistently make the biggest impact on forming young disciples and nurturing leaders in the ELCA. And those four are summer camp, Sunday school, campus ministry, and the gathering. And we know faith formation doesn't happen in isolation. Most of us can point to a handful of meaningful moments and ministries that shaped our spiritual lives. And each of the big four plays its own unique role in that journey. And so when it comes to the gathering specifically, the research highlighted something that was very powerful. The way the gathering gives young people a glimpse of the wide, expansive vision of the mission and the ministry of the ELCA. That experience, that seeing themselves as part of something bigger, has a direct impact on how deeply they connect with and engage in the life of the ELCA moving forward. And so our role is simply to accompany them. So we have another video for you.
There are moments in your life where you can feel something bigger happening, and you know you don't want to miss it.
The gathering is one of those moments. It's not a trip, it's not a conference, it's a movement.
A movement of young people just like us.
The gathering exists for one purpose: to walk with young people as they explore who God is, who they are, and what the world needs from them right now.
Through worship, learning, service, and community, young people experience faith that's alive.
It's the first place I felt like the church wanted to hear me, like actually wanted my voice. Not someday, now.
This is a space where every young person is seen, valued, and embraced. Questions, complexities, and all, because each person is created in the image of God.
You don't have to pretend. You don't have to fit into someone else's version of faith. You just get to show up as yourself because you are welcomed here.
Imagine thousands of young people from across the ELCA, different stories, different cultures, different ways of seeing the world, all in one place.
You start to realize that the church is bigger, wider, and more beautiful than you ever imagined.
You make friends you didn't even know you needed.
Here, curiosity isn't a problem, it's a gift. Ask the hard questions, say what you're wrestling with, explore faith that meets you where you are.
And then you take that faith into the world, serving, learning, building relationships, seeing how your voice and your choices can bring real change.
This movement is built on God's limitless love, so we commit to creating spaces that are accessible, equitable, welcoming, and just. Every young voice matters here. It's the first time some of us truly feel like we belong in the church.
Young people aren't the future of the church. You are leaders right now. The gathering just helps you see it.
Something shifts when you're surrounded by thousands of people your age, all figuring out who they are, who God is, and what difference they can make.
It feels like hope.
It feels like courage.
It feels like being part of something huge and knowing you belong in it.
This is what the church can look like. This is what the church can be.
So why the gathering?
Because it shapes you. Because it strengthens you.
Because this is more than an event. This is a movement, and you are a part of it.
So, with that, our theme for 2027 is Imagine More. Each year, there's a theme discernment retreat where a variety of youth are invited to be part of the theme development for the next gathering. And so we asked the youth there several questions, which included what are the top 5 problems youth are facing? What are the top 5 things that inspire you? What are the top 5 things that youth need to hear from the church? We read scripture together, and the adults in the room listened to the youth, their struggles, as well as their hopes. And so, with their help and some discernment time following the retreat, we eventually had this theme. And so, our call to youth is this: to everyone who attends the gathering for the first time, to every one of you doubting that you are worthy of God's love, to every one of you who have called the church your spiritual home, but still wander in and out. To every one of you facing a life-altering change in the days ahead. To every one of you grieving the death of someone you love. To every one of you who believes God does not know your name. To every one of you experiencing the promise of resurrection in a new way in your life. To every one of you wondering if there is a place for you here. Can you imagine more? We know that the power of God is at work in all of us, and we know that God is bigger than the box we tend to put God and our faith in. So together, through this year's leading up to the gathering, we will be imagining more. So our theme verse is from Ephesians chapter 3. You will notice that it is the inclusive version. To God, whose power now at work in us can do immeasurably more than we ask or imagine. So in Ephesus, followers of Jesus were facing social rejection, opposition, and even violence as the message of Jesus stood in direct opposition to the pagan goddess Artemis. So the current state of our world reflects a distinct parallel to the times that Paul was referencing in his letter to the early Christians in Ephesus. But we know that God is love, and that there's forgiveness of sins, and there's power in the unity of believers. So through the youth gathering, the Holy Spirit creates a rare experience for participants to understand their part in the community of the larger church. And we know that youth remember and connect more to Bible stories than to a single Bible verse. So we have Bible stories that we'll be focusing on each day to help ground us each day. So our daily themes are Imagine More Love, and we'll be looking at the story of Jesus calming the sea. Day 2 will be Imagine More Welcome with the call of Matthew, with Wednesday, day 3 being Imagine More Grace and the story of the prodigal son. We realize that some of us have grown up and know the story of the prodigal son inside and out, and our youth are not as familiar with it. The next day, Imagine More Joy is going to be focusing on resurrection and the naming of Mary. So we have that whole process where Mary is named in that story and called to share the good news with the rest of the world. And then the last day, Imagine More Courage, the woman at the well. So I'm going to turn it back over to you, Justin.
Awesome. So just to remind everyone, if you don't already have this in your calendars, our dates for the 2027 gathering, our pre-events will start June 26th through the 28th. And those, both the Multicultural Youth Leadership event and the table, which is our pre-event for young people living with disabilities, will take place at the same hotel this cycle at the Marriott City Center, which we're pretty excited that they'll be at the same spot so they can do some cool cross collaboration. Wow. And then the gathering will start on June 28th and go to July 2nd, 2027. Our main venues besides hotels across the city will be the Minneapolis Convention Center and US Bank Stadium. Serve will be the first day, so on the 28th, and we'll explain what Serve is in a little bit. And then the young adult gathering will return this cycle as well. And so that will take place the same dates as the gathering. Registration will open on October 21st, 2026. So this fall, and that will be open for young people to register need to be in 8th through 12th grade this fall. So if this fall they are in 8th grade, they're eligible to attend. If they're entering in their senior year, they're also eligible to attend. And I can pop the link to all of our key dates in the chat later. And can you go to the next slide? Okay, so we do have one more video. This webinar is pretty video heavy, we realize, but they're just really good videos that we really wanted to show. And I'll also drop a link in the chat of where you can access these videos to share with your congregations. But we wanted to give a little highlight of what the Multicultural Youth Leadership event and the table are two pre-events, what they are. And if you're interested or you're wondering how to decide if it fits your group, we encourage you to sign up for our upcoming webinar in May 14th at 7 p.m. Both Nick and Jonathan, our team leaders for MYLE and the table, will be on, and so they'll be happy to chat about our pre-events, but we'll get a video from them now. So if you could press play, there we go.
Before the gathering begins, something powerful happens. Young people come together in spaces created with them and for them. Spaces where their stories, identities, and voices shape the experience.
These pre-events aren't extras, they're essential. They're places where young people step into community with pride, strength, joy, and belonging.
The Multicultural Youth Leadership event, or MYLE, celebrates young people of color whose cultures, histories, and lived experiences have shaped the church in profound ways. MYLE is where you see leadership rise, where your identity is honored, where heritage becomes a source of power, and where community feels like family. Here, young people gather to be affirmed, challenged, uplifted, and grounded in the beauty of who they are.
And the table is a pre-event for youth living with disabilities, a bold declaration that the church is not the whole without the gifts, leadership, and wisdom of young people living with disabilities. The table is a space of belonging, joy, and pride. It is a place where young people can show up fully as themselves, without barriers, without hesitation, and discover that their leadership isn't just welcomed, it's needed.
MYLE and the table are different spaces, each rooted in the unique realities of the communities they serve.
But they stand side by side, woven together through one shared truth. Young people deserve spaces where their identities are honored and their leadership can flourish.
These pre-events help young people step into the gathering not as strangers, but as leaders.
Not as guests, but as people who know they belong.
MYLE is where young people of color claim their stories and shape the church with courage and pride.
The table is where youth living with disabilities claim their gifts and lead with wisdom, creativity, and strength.
Both spaces are grounded in faith, community, justice, and joy.
Both remind young people that God's vision includes them fully, calling them to bring their stories, strength, and truth to the whole church.
To every young person of color, your story matters. Your gifts matter, and MYLE is a space created for you to shine.
To every young person living with a disability, you are valued, you are leaders, and the table is a space where your whole self is celebrated.
To adult leaders, thank you for walking with young people and trusting these spaces. Your presence strengthens this movement.
And to congregations, your commitment to these pre-events helps shape a church that mirrors the kingdom of God.
2 unique pre-events to the gathering.
One shared movement of belonging, leadership, and joy.
Welcome to MYLE.
Welcome to the table.
Awesome. So now I would love to talk about programming at the gathering. So it's going to look a little different than you have experienced in the past. On the left, we'll go over quickly what it used to look like since 2009. We've had a rotation where congregations would rotate between Synod Day, which was worship within their synods, or last cycle was more so region-based. Interactive learning, which was a time in the convention center with partners doing some sort of interactive learning, and then accompaniment, or previously known as service learning, out in the community doing some sort of service. After those, we would go to mass gathering at the stadium, and then we would finish with community life. However, we're taking that and throwing it out the window, and we're doing something new this cycle. And so if you look on the right, this is kind of a more realistic view of what the day will look like at the gathering. Serve is going to be similar to accompaniment, but it's expanded a little. And this is an opt-in additional cost for congregations. The first 4,000 participants, not congregations, will be able to participate and serve. Basically, what's going to happen is you will be split into 2 different chunks of the day. In the morning, you could potentially be serving, and so that will be a hands-on service project, and it will be serving a little longer than you would have in the past. Then we'll provide lunch, and then after that, you will do an action plan. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to take everything you just experienced out in the community in Minneapolis, in the Twin Cities. You'll take that, debrief it, and start thinking, how can we apply what we learned from those partners in our own home community? We'll walk through an entire action plan. And so hopefully you can then take that, and the second you get back home, you can take it and run. You can start implementing accompaniment in your own communities. So it would either be serving first and then learning second, or learning first and serving second. And so, like I said, that is for the first 4,000 participants to sign up. Whole congregations must register for it. So we can't take just a few and the others go to Mall of America and hang out. But this is on Monday, right before the gathering kicks off with mass gathering. The cost of that is $100 per person, and it includes transportation, lunch, an accompaniment shirt, the action plan, all the supplies to do the projects, as well as floor seats on that first night of Mass gathering. More information on that can be found on our website. We can also point you to our webinar specifically on Serve as well. So then I'll focus going over and then I'll come back to the evening activities. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Well, actually, sorry, Tuesday and Wednesday, we'll start with worship. Worship will take place at US Bank Stadium. This is the first time since, Beth, correct me if I'm wrong, 2006?
Yep.
Okay. 2006 was the last time we started the day with worship. So we're excited to bring that back. We'll join everyone at US Bank Stadium for worship for about 45 to 60 minutes. And then you'll be sent into our program spaces that we're calling Engage. That team is still very much planning and dreaming and figuring out what that will exactly look like. But our hope is it will be a more interactive and immersive experience for our young people, connecting different experiences with partners, doing really cool and innovative work throughout the church. So more on that to come, but we're really excited about the shift in programming for that. We won't have worship on Thursday morning, which is the last full day of the gathering, because we are going to do closing worship alongside Mass gathering. And you might see that community life is before Mass gathering. That is intentional. Turns out it doesn't get dark until basically midnight, not exactly midnight. Real late in Minnesota in the summer. So, and if you've ever seen pictures of US Bank Stadium, there's a lot of windows in that building. And so to get a more intimate feel of Mass gathering, we needed to push Mass gathering back a little bit. Also, community life really only works well in a few of our cities that we've been to. And it doesn't seem like it'll work the best in Minneapolis because we'll be spread out a little bit more than we were in New Orleans. So we'll have community life at the Commons, which is a park right outside of US Bank Stadium, before everyone heads into Mass gathering. And so that could look like food trucks, yard games, things like that. And then we'll move into Mass gathering for the evening. So that's a shift of what our programming will look like. Lots of more information will come out, but that gives you a sneak peek into what we're planning. And one last thing, I think this is the last thing before we do Q&A. So get your questions ready. We have a few resources that we definitely want to point you to so that you have them. I'm going to put the link in the chat right now for promo items. So far, we have a postcard template. If you were with us at the extravaganza at the end of January for our theme launch, you received some postcards to invite young people to the gathering. If not, that's okay. We made a version of it available on the website so you can print them. It comes to a sheet, and then you can start using those to invite your young people to the gathering. We have a budget template, and that shows you, there's an example of what a congregation would look, how much it would cost for them to attend, for hotels, for meals, for flights, etc. And so that is on our website, and we encourage you to download that, and then you can start plugging in your own information. As you start planning, we have some promotional videos. The ones you saw today are in there, as well as 2 additional ones. And then we have all of our logo files, so you can start making your own social media posts and things like that. We're going to continue to add to this resources page in the next few months and leading up to the gathering. So be sure to bookmark it and check back often. but we wanted to highlight the things that are there now so that you can get a head start in planning. And so now it's going to be time for questions, but before we do that, I do want to mention our next webinar is recruiting the right adult leaders and avoiding the wrong ones. And so that will be on March 19th at 7 p.m. If you are able to attend, we would love to have you there. Be sure to register on our website like you did for this one. If you can't make it, that's okay too. A recording will be available a little while after. But I think we can stop screen sharing and we can answer some of your questions. Let me pull up the questions now.
If you don't have, if you think of questions later, you can always email us at gathering@elca.org. So know that.
Okay. Beth, this is a question for you. Can you share the age/grade for young people to attend?
Yep. So starting next school year, right, is those entering 8th grade through graduating 12th graders. Again, this is also on the website. If you forget, or if you're like, wait, you have a panic attack of like, wait, what age was it? On the website under attend congregations, it gives you that information.
Yes. So our website just launched, so we don't expect you to know everything on there, but feel free to take a look. And we're going to continue to add things as we get closer. So take a look. It has a wealth of information. Let's see. Is the young adult group going to have the same schedule? They will have a completely different programming. That is the ELCA Young Adult team that will be planning that event. They will be invited to mass gathering like they were in 2024, but the programming specifically during the day will look very different.
And they will be mostly out together. I don't want to say where they're going to be because I'm not 100% sure that that has been solidified, but they will be in for mass gathering in the evening. There's a good chance that they might not join us for worship in the morning just because of movement. So, yeah. Oh, Justin, can you speak to requirements or recommendations for smaller congregations who might only have 1 or 2 youth attending?
For sure. Great question. This cycle, some of our regional reps are on this call actually. Instead of doing synod coordinators or synod champions like we've done in the last few cycles, we switched it around and we have regional reps. So each region of the ELCA has a rep. Some regions have two. The region 3, 5?
Region,
No.
yep.
Okay, region 3 and 5 have two. All of their information is on the website and you can contact them. Feel free, if you have 1 or 2 youth wanting to attend, we strongly encourage you to still attend with them, even though it's not going to be a big group, but reach out to your regional rep and they might be able to connect you with someone in the town over that's attending, or maybe even your town that you might not know about. And so you can kind of plan together and such. Let's see.
It looks like we've gotten a few questions about walkability in Minneapolis and transportation and whatnot. Yeah, shall we tag team this one?
Sure.
First of all, Minneapolis is set up differently than New Orleans. So that is the reality. The difference is Minneapolis has a light rail system that is very easy to get along and around on. If you choose to do that, you can actually walk. Our goal is to keep people kind of in certain parts of the city. So you're not like traipsing back and forth like you might have in New Orleans. We are, again, we're still looking at all the things. Teams are still planning. If we need to transport people across the city on a lot more regular basis, we will be looking into that. Right now, all of our hotels are in downtown Minneapolis. I almost said downtown Houston. That's the wrong city,
Oh,
Minneapolis. Um, and so if we have to expand outside downtown, then we will start looking at transportation and busing people back and forth.
um, okay. Will there be options for groups to buy dinner packages? Again, that was really helpful in New Orleans. Yes, most likely we're still trying to figure out exactly what that'll look like, but there will be some dinner and potentially lunch options. So stay tuned for that.
Yep. There's also a question about serve conflicting with MYLE and table. They do overlap, right? And so we recognize that. MYLE and table participants will be full in on their event. They will still be finishing that up on that Monday when service happening. So Nick and Jonathan are looking at ways to incorporate that into their program. It won't be the full extent of that, like it has been. So we're still in the planning processes of that. I will also say that part of this shift in doing serve as an add-on is because in that whole document that Justin said in evaluations, yep, all those pages we read, either people loved the service or it was the most frustrating thing. And so we are making some changes to look at to that and realizing that that's maybe not the best use of everybody's time. And so we're still figuring out what kind of service components look like in MYLE and serve. I mean, MYLE and table. I do know that the table had their own special service project last year for the very first time that really met the needs of the participants. And so that's something that we hold as a value that if we're going to do something, we want to make sure that it serves both the people who are doing the service and the people who are receiving that.
Yeah. And just to add on, I guess I forgot to mention during the time when I was talking about serve, um, the the gathering has existed for over 100 years. Well, Lutheran youth have been gathering for over 100 years. It wasn't until 2009 that accompaniment or service learning was a key component of the gathering, and that was in response to Hurricane Katrina. And so we knew that that it was really important for us to show up into New Orleans in 2009 and 2012, ready to serve our neighbors. And we continued that through. And now we're realizing that it's actually quite difficult to find enough service projects that are hands-on and that impact our neighbors in a good way when we enter into a new city. Uh, we don't want to show up and just paint things just to paint them. So we want to make sure that the serve component is intentional and it's also mutually beneficial. We learn something, but then also we get to hear their stories and they get some help when they might not have that opportunity without us.
I feel like there was also this question about extroverts and introverts. About someone has never gotten to attend the gathering as a youth or adult, so no past experience, that's fine. Don't need any. But concerned about the introverts in their youth group. And I would say that as someone who is an introvert, what is slightly different about this event is that there are spaces, there are flex times, right? Like you're not around the whole community of 16, 20,000 people all day, right? There are some flows, some times to kind of like whoo, take a breath. And as we form the schedule for the day, as the adult leaders, you get to choose how your congregation participates in all of that, right? Like, is there, you're going to take a longer route so that you guys have a little bit more quiet time? Or Is it going to be you're gonna maybe leave mass gathering earlier to have a little bit more downtime, right? Like there's activities for everybody, and there's also going to be some sensory space issues, places for people who maybe need quieter space, who maybe need fewer people around. Because we realize that God didn't create us all the same. And so realizing that we each have different things that are needed for us to feel comfortable in spaces as we engage with other people.
Yeah. A question about transportation to and from the gathering. When is it recommended for groups to arrive, especially if they're participating in serve? And when do groups plan to leave? So that kind of depends on where you're coming from. If you're coming from somewhere where you can drive, you could potentially come in Monday morning and do serve. That probably will start pretty early in the morning, but you might still be able to make it in. Otherwise, we would encourage you to come in probably the night before. And then the gathering will officially end on Friday. And so we'll send you on your way on Friday. Are there medical professionals on site during the event? Yes. In case of emergency, yes, we have a full medical and safety and security team that will be on site before the gathering and all the way until everyone leaves.
Getting some questions about time to explore and see the city, and then without the separation of service, Synod Day and Learning Day, I assume we should expect larger crowds during engaged time. I'm gonna toss that one to you, Justin.
Sure. Um, during the engaged section, you'll be split into 6 different chunks, so 2 per day. And 5 of those will be programmed, and you will be assigned, like, go to this spot at this time, and experience this thing. The 6th option will be an opportunity for you to go out and explore the city. So if that is going to one of the mini parks that Minneapolis has to offer, if that is going to Mall of America, you get to kind of choose that piece. So hopefully that answers both of those questions. Is that yes, it might be a little busier, but you'll be assigned a specific spot, so we have a better idea of crowd control. There was a question about having a general daily schedule. We'll work on getting that on the website. I know it was super confusing to follow. I was confused as I was describing it, and that was the 4th time that I think I presented that. So we'll be sure to add that to the website. In the next month or so, our schedule will get a little more firm, and we'll make sure that's up on the website for you.
Was gonna say the other thing for you all to know is that our planning teams are just now getting to work on some of the details of things that we've been dreaming for a while, and so we're not answering your questions. We're not keeping anything from you. It's just that some of this stuff is still getting worked out as we make one decision. Then it's like, how does that impact the next thing? So there is some planning and figuring things out that's still happening.
Yeah. What is the age range for young adult? That one will be 18 to 35. That was the age range that we had last cycle. Majority of the participants are between the 18 and 22, but they will be split up among like age cohorts so that they are with people of similar age. Another question similar to that we get often is like, okay, I have someone that's in 12th grade, but they're 18. Do they go to the young adult gathering? Do they go to the gathering? Our policy is that if they are still in 12th grade this fall, regardless if they're 18 or not, they are to attend the gathering. And so the young adult gathering is for those that have already graduated and have been 18. A few more questions about serve, and then I think we are almost out of time. Serve will happen on June 28th, that Monday at the gathering. That is the only day that I will be available. And again, it is first come, first serve. So if you in your congregation is interested in that, we encourage you to register early because once those 4,000 spots fill up, we're unable to expand that beyond the 4,000. So hopefully that will incentivize you to sign up early. If you have people attending MYLE on the table and another part of your group signs up for serve, our hotel is going to be available. Yes.
Yeah.
We will make sure you have a place to stay. Will we know ahead of time when our city engaged time will be so that we can plan an activity? Most likely, yes. That will probably be included in your final details, which will come out. Let me look on the website. Congregational final details released May 14th. So you'll know then. Okay.
Yes, the question, will you know at registration if we got into serve? Yes, because if once serve fills up, you won't be able to register for it anymore. So there you go.
And one last question, is there a way to have the same seats for the whole mass gathering? Unfortunately, it is too logistically heavy to do that. And we want to make sure that multiple people will have access to floor seats this cycle, since we did not have floor seats last cycle. So that was a lot of information. Hopefully, you learned a little bit about why the gathering and we answered some of your questions. If we didn't get to your question, feel free to send us an email, gathering@elca.org, and we'll be able to answer those tomorrow. And yeah, we hope to see you next month for the webinar. And that's it. So thank you again for taking some time to hang out with us tonight. We'll see you next week, next month, not next month. All right. Bye.
Bye all. Thank you.